Welcome, everybody. Have you ever been to a pleasure party? I'm telling you, it's one of the most things you can do legally. Hello, my name is Ellen Nicholas Rathbone. I'm a sensuality consultant. And this past Saturday, I celebrated my 42nd year doing pleasure parties. It was at a person's home that was a hostess of mine many, many years ago. And we had a blast. It was particularly nice because there was a nice wide range of ages. So I got to cover a lot of topics that I didn't have to keep it limited to an age. Normally, if you're doing a pleasure party and you have a group of women, they'll be all within 10 years of each other. So say all in their 20s or in their 30s or in their 50s. But this group had young ladies, I would say as young as maybe 25, 26. And then there was a lady there who was 81 years old. And although some people might think 81-year-olds don't like to have pleasure, she obviously did. And even though it wasn't toys that she got, what she got was some wonderful sensual toiletries to take care of her skin and to enjoy her femininity. Now, that's the great thing about pleasure parties. Who are they for? They are for women, especially, to get in touch with their feminine side and add a sensual aspect to their sexuality. They are for any woman who wants to cash in on the facts that she has erogenous zones from the top of her head to the soles of her feet, and her body can be an instrument of pleasure, orgasm from so many different places. And why? Because the orgasm starts in your mind. And when you have knowledge, and when you have wisdom, and when you have knowing, and when you have trust and faith in your body's abilities, and you love your body, and you believe in it, and you allow it to be sensitive, and you take care of it, it is one of the most wonderful expressions of pleasure is to have sexual relations. Now, whether those sexual relations are with a partner, especially a giving, loving, caring partner, or by yourself. It was kind of funny because when I was doing the party, the elderly lady, a couple of the elderly ladies says, well, we don't have any men in our lives. And I said, well, that's okay. You have a right hand. And she kind of looked at me like, what does that mean? And I said, okay, maybe left hand. Like, one hand or the other. If God did not want us to play with our clitoris, he would have put it between our shoulder blades. But as it is very easily accessible. And so it's a good thing to take care of your own self. Now, why is that? Because if you rest, you rust. And that same thing goes for your genitals, your vagina, your vaginal lining, your clitoris, your labia. All that stuff goes to hell if you never touch yourself while you're waiting for Prince Charming to show up. So, you can take care of yourself. And a pleasure party is where you learn just the beginnings of making that happen. First, you get the permission that you can take care of yourself. And then, if you want, in a private atmosphere, you get to learn about all kinds of toys and lotions and everything that's out there, the cutting edge of all the best stuff. Now, personally, because I love my job and because I love people, I have suffered my body the slings and arrows of product research because I don't want to sell crap to my customers. If it's going to break easily, if it's going to cause an infection, if it's something that's junk to begin with, I don't want to sell it. I'll let my competitors sell it. But if it's something that can bring you delightful orgasms, one after another, if it's one that keeps you vibrant and pleased with your body's ability and confident in the knowing that you can have orgasm and multiple orgasms because you have the instruments to make it happen, then I know I have done a good thing for our foundational expanse and influence into the primordial soup of what we all are. And what are we? We are sexual beings, and making love is a real art form. Now, where can a pleasure party take place? It could take place in a person's home. Okay, there cannot be any children there. No one under 18 is invited, because you have to learn how to crawl before you run. And children, young children, 17 and less, they have their knowledge is only to learn about their bodies and to learn to have respect for their bodies, not to have it as a sexual tool for someone to use, or to be used by someone else. No, that's not what we're supposed to be teaching them. So first, you have to learn about your control, you have to learn about yourself, and then you go to pleasure parties when you become a little bit more mature and you want to know the foundational information for making love at its highest place. Now, when should a pleasure party take place? Well, they can take place at any time. Some people use them to celebrate bachelorette parties. Some people use them to celebrate divorce parties. Some people use them because they are just a unique evening of sexual knowledge, fun, information, and knowing and understanding that you will not find in any institutional business. Okay. You are never going to go to a business where every week or every time they get together, it is talk about sex at its finest. No. In this country, especially, sex is seen as a liability. And the only time you hear anybody talking about sex is when they're talking about all the stuff that can go wrong. Oh, you could have an unwanted pregnancy, or you could exchange STDs. You could die. There's just so many negatives about it. Okay. But they don't talk about the responsibility of it. They don't talk about the joy of it. They don't talk about the healing aspects of it. Every single time you have an orgasm, it is a phenomenal experience for your body. It literally lights you up, And that's what you are. You're a light. So to increase your vibration through an explosion of pleasure that your own body creates, I think you're doing yourself a big favor, emotionally, physically, and even spiritually. At a pleasure party, you get to understand that you are deserving of pleasure and how to attain that pleasure. Do you realize that before the 1960s and the sexual revolution, women were not having pleasure? Women were being used, and they were not, they had to have all kinds of psychological talks with people because they were so frustrated all the time, and everybody was sexually tense all the time, because before Masters and Johnson, they didn't even know that women were supposed to have orgasms. So now here we are in this century, and we are slowly moving away from the personal, intimate relationships with people, and we're establishing more relationships online. Well, that's not going to do it. That's not going to continue us as a species. That's not going to tell you if that person has the chemistry, the pheromone link that would work for you. That's not going to tell you how to read a person's signs. You need to get in touch. You need to meet people. You need to go out there and be human. And at a pleasure party, you learn how to be human first by yourself, and then take that confidence with you into the world. So I hope you all get a chance someday, especially you ladies, to check out a pleasure party. If it is done right, it is a mini sex class on wheels, but not sex about, procreation and STDs and that sort of. It's a class much like they had in ancient India. Thousands of years ago, when a young lady who was going to marry royalty, she had to know her way around the bedroom. She had to know where his scrotum was, different techniques, different positions. It's not just enough to lie there and think that's going to do it. If you're with the same man for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, just lying there is not going to keep his interest. Variety is the spice of life. So if you want him to find variety with other people, just lie there. But if you want to keep the embers of passion hot and sexy between you, you need to participate, and you need to be comfortable with what you're doing as you participate. So that happens through experimentation. And those are the things that are encouraged at pleasure parties. Ideas, suggestions, fun ways to approach the sexual relationship, whether it's through fantasy, through massage, through dance, or through toys, or just through cuddling. There's all kinds of ways to bring it together. And at a sensual pleasure party, it is the time to talk about it all, let it all hang out, and tell everybody what it is so that they can enjoy a fruitful, exciting, delicious sex life. It's not something that most mothers talk about to their daughters. Oh, girl, listen, you're going to need a vibrator at some point. They don't talk about that stuff. But you know what? A vibrator is a phenomenal tool that can be like a wand in a maestro's hand. And if he knows how to use that tool, whether it's on her or on himself, he can bring wonderful vibrations to the whole situation that are exciting, different, and definitely intense. And so, again, pleasure is the goal. And going to a pleasure party is learning about the tools that it takes to make sexual relations exciting. And the more you know, the further you go. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation this evening. I am a sensuality consultant. I love my job, but I'm also a life coach. If you have any questions, you see my email address floating along the bottom there, ypi69@hotmail.com. Definitely give me an email, send me a message, ask me a question, and maybe I can have a whole show just around your question, because this is where we talk about sexual relations as the living art that it is. Okay, we're not talking about sex as something shameful or dirty or nasty or any of that. We're talking about it as the most wonderful gift that your body can produce naturally, and all the benefits that you would get because of that gift. I hope you've enjoyed this time with me. Please do your Kegel exercises, at least 300 every day. Take good care of yourselves, and see you next week. Namaste.